Officially call the meeting to order, and the meeting is being live streamed. Check out the Amso webpage for more details there. So next up, Sarah, could you please announce the board members present?
Okay. Bella Gorman, Ben Hamill, Dawn Capello, Jill Schaefer, Liz Soul, Mara Webster, Nick Poirier, Roger Jarrett, Sheila Kelly, Salmini Sampath, and Zachary Oglesby. Thank
you, Sarah. And when Raul or Kristen join us, we will have announced them as well. Next up, I need to appoint a timekeeper who will keep us on track for this evening. Volunteers?
I can do it.
Zach, great. Zach is our official timekeeper. And finally, announcing that we will be going into executive session at the end of this meeting for negotiation with non-represented personnel, and we will not reconvene back in open session. So we're ready for public comment, since we have recorded attendance and guests. Sarah's actively doing that.
I did not receive any requests for public comment, so unless there's someone on the line that would like to speak, there was no request through email.
Request for public comment. Going once, going twice, complete. No public comment. Votes, we have, actually in the vote section, I checked in with, well, let's just do them in order. So we have looking for a motion to approve the minutes from January 2022.
I move that we approve them.
Second, Dawn.
Any discussion?
And who was the second one?
Second was from Dawn. Hearing no discussion, Sarah, please call the roll.
Yes, hold on one second. My computer just decided to do something. All right. Dawn Capello.
Yes.
Jill Schaefer.
Yes.
Liz Saul.
Yes.
Mara Webster.
Yes.
Nick Poirier.
Yes.
Roger Jarrett.
Yes.
Sheila Kelly.
Yes.
Salmini Sampath.
Yes.
Zachary Oglesby.
Yes.
Bella Gorman.
Yes.
Ben Hamill.
Yes.
And I don't believe the others are here yet. So that's everybody.
I'm
Motion
here.
passed.
Kristen's here.
Kristen's here.
Yeah.
Kristen, do you, yes?
What was the question? I missed the question.
Oh, the minutes.
Yes, yes.
Welcome, Kristen. Next up, the consent agenda is only an inform. You can read the Education Committee summary. The third item was the executive session minutes. We're going to defer that vote to next month. The fourth item is the vote to approve the construction manager and a pre-construction budget for WT Rich Construction Management Company. Ellen, would you like to speak to this topic?
Well, I think Nick might be even more qualified, but we went through a process this week. It's actually part of my board report. Actually, it was last week, of interviewing 3 different very qualified candidates to be our construction manager on our project. And we chose, after an extensive interview with a large team of people, including Nick, myself, Leanna, Eric, our OPM, Owner's Project Manager, Bob Baldwin, our consultant, and our architect, Feingold Alexander. We offered the position to the bid that went from it's WT Rich. And we're in the process actually of negotiating that contract now, and that will take some time. Nick can give us some more detail, but we are interested in paying them having up to $150,000 to pay them over the next 9 months, I believe, right, Nick?
Yeah, so we are looking to get an approval to engage with WT Rich for their pre-construction services for the next 9 months. And those services include working with the design team, helping to go through their schematic designs, provide pricing along the way to really make sure that we're designing to the budget. So they completely understand the budget. I guess I'll take a step back. So WT Rich, so all three very, very qualified general contractors. And ultimately, there was a consensus made that WT Rich made the most sense, and it was for a couple of reasons. One, it was that they have extensive experience in charter school work would be an understatement. They do that. That's almost primarily what they do. Not only do they have extensive experience, but they have a lot of repeat business with some of the same schools. And we thought that that was very important. They fully understand, because they've done the charter schools, they understand that we don't have an endless bucket of money. We have a very finite budget that we have to stick to. And again, with their track record, we felt the most comfortable with them. We felt like there was a connection made between the team. We also like the fact that Bob Baldwin, who's our OPM, has a lot of experience working with WT Rich, and so does the OPM's answer. So because of all those reasons, plus a ton others that I could get into if you guys need me to, we felt like WT Rich was the best fit for our school because they understood what we were trying to do. They have a ton of experience working in occupied areas like the school, so they really know how to navigate around. They understand the challenges that we're going to be facing. They understand the complexity of what we're trying to do, and that we're looking at it as kind of a phased approach where, and again, not to get too much into the details, but getting in the road that really provides the best circulation for the school, which is going to be a pretty immediate impact, positive impact on the school. So, so we decided to engage with them. And I believe what we're looking for tonight, and I probably won't word it correctly, but what we're looking for is an approval to engage with WT Rich for their pre-construction services for the next 9 months of up to $150,000. This is going to allow the process to keep moving. And right now, Bob Baldwin is negotiating with them to see what he can do to massage the number down as much as possible. And that cost includes a lot, like I had been saying before, working with the design team, making sure that there's a lot of checks and balances along the way to make sure that when the design is done, it doesn't come out to a $20 million price tag where we clearly can't afford it. And now it's delaying the job. It's causing angst with the community and with the board. So there's a lot of other things that go into it. And again, I can get into detail if anybody has any questions. I'm more than happy to answer that. But in a nutshell, that's what we'd be looking for tonight.
And I think it goes without saying, but having Nick on the board through this process has been absolutely invaluable. Obviously, he's very fluent in this and took part in these interviews with us. So thank you, Nick, once again for all your input and for helping us to articulate all the things that we need to that we're not fluent in because we're educators. So thank you, Nick.
And I'm glad that I can finally contribute. So thank you to everybody.
Oh, you've been contributing all along, Nick. Thank you very much. Roger, I think you have the exact wording on the vote.
I don't have it I don't have the exact word in front of me, but basically the vote is to approve the selection of WT Rich and to be able to enter into a contract for up to $150,000 for the pre-construction services.
And giving me the authority to sign.
And yes, and giving Ellen authority to execute the said contract.
Motion to approve.
Who was that?
Nick.
And I'll second it. It's Sheila.
Other discussion or questions from the board? Hearing none. Sarah, please call the roll.
Bella Gorman,
Yes.
Ben Hamel,
Yes.
Don Capello,
Yes.
Jill Schaefer,
Yes.
Kristen Carney,
Yes.
Liz Saul,
Yes.
Mara Webster,
Yes.
Nick Poirier,
Yes.
Raul Porras,
Yes.
Roger Jarrett,
Yes.
Sheila Kelly,
Yes.
Salmini Sampat,
Yes.
and Zachary Oglesby.
Yes.
That's
Motion
everyone.
passes. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. We'll help move the project along. Final piece is, let's see, do we have let me hunt down the exact wording for this. So the final piece is a vote to approve the agreement to quarterly sweep the money that we raised from the capital fund from the board, from the STEM Soaring Eagles to AMSA. Liana, do you have the exact wording? Have to hunt it. I'm trying to get email and run a meeting at the same time, unsuccessfully.
Yeah, I have it. Let me just find it real quick.
Thank you, Liana. And this was discussed in finance and approved and recommended to the board.
All right, I'm just gonna share it real quick.
Awesome, thank you.
Are you seeing my screen?
Yes. So
Do you
I'll
see
just
the
read it off.
policy?
Yep. I'll just read it off for people who are on audio only. STEM Soaring Eagles Foundation Inc. agrees to automatically sweep capital campaign contributions to the Advanced Math and Science Academy Charter School on a quarterly basis. This will be done at the AMSA's Director of Finance and Operations, but done by the AMSA's Director of Finance and Operations. If funds are needed by AMSA between scheduled sweeps, the AMSA Executive Director shall make a written notification to STEM Soaring Eagles to request the funds, and STEM Soaring Eagles will transfer the funds as requested. So, and this is basically an agreement between the two boards and Ellen for how we would do this.
Is Chris still the chair there?
Chris O'Keefe is the chair. Hearing no questions, I'll take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion from
And who was second?
Maura.
So
It would be
Bella-
helpful. I'm typing an area. If you would say your name when you do the vote, that would be helpful.
So when you make a motion, please give your name. Sarah, please call the roll.
Bella Gorman,
Yes.
Ben Hamel,
Yes.
Don Capello,
Yes.
Jill Schaefer,
Yes.
Kristen Carney,
Yes.
Liz Saul,
Yes.
Mara Webster,
Yes.
Nick Poirier,
Yes.
Raul Porras,
Yes.
Roger Jarrett,
Yes.
Sheila Kelly,
Yes.
Salmini Sampat,
Yes.
and Zachary Oglesby.
Yes.
That's everyone.
Motion passes unanimously. On to reports section of our meeting, starting with Ellen with the Executive Director report. Ellen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. Let's see if I can share my slides with you tonight. Do a slideshow. Here we go. All right. Well, we're going to keep this short and sweet tonight because we have a very special guest here with us. And I want to make sure that he has his time as well. So welcome you all out to our board meeting this evening, February 17th. We're going to give you a quick update on the lottery. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the new AMSA mask policy, a quick building update, and a little bit of razzle dazzle. And we're going to talk a little bit about upcoming events. And then I will introduce you to Mr. Peter Prue, who's AMSA's DEI coordinator. And some of you may already know him. He's one of our history teachers. So first of all, I sent all of you an email letting you know that we had record numbers of applications this year. So very, very exciting. We did shift the dates a little bit of when we were accepting applications. And so typically by this meeting, and although February vacation is a little late this February, we would have already had the lottery. And we haven't, because we've actually moved the date out to March 1st. So Linda Edwards worked with the Department of Education, with Charter School Charter School Office, and we've switched that. So the lottery will actually be done publicly on March 1st. So I don't have, I can't tell you this time, but I will in March, how many students we took in from each town and each grade. But what I do have for you here with the help of Linda, and she actually had broken this down into by towns, but I couldn't fit it on the slide. So this is how many applications we have for each grade. So sixth grade is 481, 183 for seventh, 160 for eighth, and 209 for ninth grade. We expect to be taking in about 140 or so sixth graders, 135, somewhere in that range. There will be a few seventh grade seats taken as well. We like to stay away from eighth grade if we can, just because of the academic rigor and the number of classes. It can be a tough place to jump in. And then we know we'll have some ninth grade seats open as well. And Linda will be working on that through the spring and the summer, for total application numbers of 1,033. So that is the exact number of our all-time AMSA record. And I think as we go through the years, I think we're going to see that number going up and up. We had an opportunity this year to actually, we were invited in by Mike Bergeron, our Marlboro superintendent, to visit the fifth grade classes too. So just I think it was the 31st of January, a number of us, myself and Anders and Mike and Peter Prue actually came with us, did a little roundup, and we went to all the different elementary schools in Marlboro and did a presentation on the school, and it was actually a lot of fun. All right, and so our AMSA masking policy, for the parents who are listening, or for those of you who are parents on the board, you received a letter from us talking about how we're going to roll out the AMSA masking policy for the spring of 2022. Wanted to let you know that 75%, as of this week, 75% of our students and 90% of our staff are vaccinated. Love to see that number go up, but we're happy with that number. That's been a long time coming. We were running in the 60% for students for a long time. So happy to see that number has gone up. As of this week, we have 2 active student COVID cases, and last week we had 0. So we're actually very, very happy with that. We found ourselves in a really great place after a very, very challenging January, especially those first 2 or 3 weeks after the winter break. I think in total, over those weeks, we had about 200 student cases. And so, and that's an awful lot of work on teachers, where they're creating extra Zoom links. The nurse's office, at the time we were doing contact tracing, which was also very, very taxing. So we're very happy with our numbers. It takes a lot of pressure off a lot of folks at the school. We made an announcement about the opt-in at-home COVID testing program, and we have been doing that. We have, I believe it's about 125 or so staff members who are involved in that. I don't have the latest number on the students, but it was in the 400 or so range. That's all being run and organized out of Lynn McCluskey's office, and they are delivering those to staff's email boxes, their physical mailboxes at school, and then they're also being delivered to students in their directed study or in one particular period of the high school. We're also still doing symptomatic tests. So if anyone's not feeling well at the school, any of our students or staff, you can always go down to our nurse's office, very accommodating, and they'll do a quick test for you. Everyone has also received tests to test prior to coming back from February break as well. So it was announced last week, and I'm sure you saw in the news, that the mask mandate that has been in place from the state and from the Department of Education ends on February 28th. And what they said was, we are now turning over those decisions for local control. So they've turned those decisions based on how things are going in the different towns and cities in the state, control to the superintendents and executive directors at each individual school. So we thought about this, spoke to a lot of folks, including medical professionals. Some of our parents who are in the medical field also reached out to us, and decided that we would continue with our mask mandate until March 11th. Now that's basically 2 weeks when we come back from February break. The 11th is the Friday. And I feel that by that time, we're going to have a pretty good idea if we're going to have a spike after February break when many of us are traveling, or if things have really, if our numbers are really, really low. And so as I mentioned, that the staff all has a test that they can take on February 27th. They had those delivered to them. And we hope that our numbers are really low. And if they are, that's fantastic. And if they're not, we're going to take it 1 week at a time after March 11th, and until our numbers are back to a place where folks either in our nurse's office or also the Marlborough Board of Health feel comfortable with us removing our masks. So we will. We did see, large spikes, obviously after the winter holiday, but also after Thanksgiving. So we're going to monitor our cases over February vacation. Staff will test on the 27th. And then the goal is, as soon as we can, believe me, that we will have an AMSA mask choice plan. And that will be basically anyone who feels that they would like to wear a mask will be supported in that decision. I do believe that's a personal choice, especially at this point if the numbers stay low. And that's what we're moving towards once we feel that it's a good time to do so. Okay, building update, just a small update for you, really. If you take a look at this is a little bit more of a detailed plan of the third floor of the 165 building. And you can see here, hopefully you can look at this afterwards. You'll all have access to this through Board on Track. But you can see that up on the top, we have a couple of the chemistry labs. They're connected by a prep room. There's one bio lab at the very top. The second bio lab, we will still be using what is now currently the chemistry lab in the 201 building. Excuse me, the 199 building. That will be turned into a bio lab. So there'll be one bio lab there in the high school, and then the other bio lab will be here with 2 chemistry labs. We're really hoping to have those cluster desks and the sinks in between all of those lab spaces in the chemistry lab. You can see the detail where the fume hoods will be. And then towards the bottom, we have 2 physics labs as well. I'm very excited about the physics classrooms, to be perfectly honest. To me, it really was a lack of obviously space in the building, but that we've done the kind of level of physics that we've done, Steve Stonebreaker and Dr. Claridge, with absolutely no physics lab. My husband has an undergrad in physics. Physics is important in our family, and just to be able to offer this to our kids, I think, is a huge step in the right direction. Then there's 2 classrooms you can see on the far side there. Those classrooms can be used for anything, and so we've been talking to the scheduling vendors about how we might want to use those, but there's a lot of flexibility there. Then you can see that nice little breakout space there in the corner. We've talked about the science department is interested in making that, if we can afford it, glass walls there, maybe some display cases, but it would be breakout space for students to be working collaboratively or small groups. It's 402 square feet. For those of you who are familiar with the 420 room 420, it's oddly shaped, but it's about the size of that, I think. And then you can see the red dotted lines. That's actually for the space for folks with disabilities to be able to access that. They have to make sure that falls within code. And that's what those little red spots are. It would be handicap access. There's a staircase that's added. It's the one towards the bottom that says stair number 3. And that is one that we will be adding in. There's a teacher workspace there as well. We plan that the science folks will be using storage up on the 4th floor. And they actually seem to be pretty excited about that, which is why we made the teacher workspace a little bit bigger than was shown on the last drawing that you might have seen. So we can talk about this if you have any questions, but that's what we're looking at right now. And this is the drawing that we will be sharing with various companies too, hoping that they will want to sponsor these labs and get them outfitted and set up for our students. So our construction team is complete, and this is just so exciting. It's the pieces have fallen together, and Nick did such a wonderful job, and I really appreciate it, of really explaining what we believe that WT Rich brings to the table. But I have to say, I'm just absolutely thrilled at the team that we've put together. I'm a person who does some of these things. I have kind of a gut feeling about people and our ability to work together. And I'm just absolutely thrilled with this team. So you can recognize Bob Baldwin. He's been to a number of our meetings. Bob was the first person we brought in, my gosh, about 1.5 years ago. And he has been such a great partner in this from QPD. And so grateful for the work that we've done with Bob. Then after that, we brought in Answer Advisory, and that's Ksenia there as well. And some of the folks on the finance committee have met Ksenia. She's detail oriented. She's tough. She asks tough questions. She's quick to laugh. But boy, she really works hard. She's super organized. She's been a great support for Leanna. And grateful to be working with her and the rest of the Answer Advisory team. And there's a number of people behind her and beside her as well. And then, I've talked an awful lot about I feel really, really good kind of about the opportunity to work with Feingold Alexander Architects, and what an outstanding group of folks this group has been. And that's Regan. She is efficient and sharp, and that's Christopher Lane. No relation to Eric Lane, but fantastic people to work with. Have made every single change and question that we had. Just been a super addition to the team. And then all of us got together with all of these folks and came up with WT Rich. And as Nick mentioned, these folks have deep experience, many years, many projects with charter schools. And I really feel that this is so important. Obviously, Bob Baldwin has been working with charter schools since the 1990s. Answer Advisory, he's worked with them a number of times, not on every project, but on a number of projects. And they are also deeply involved with charter schools. Feingold Alexandria is not. We are the first charter school, I will proudly say, and I'm excited to be featured on their website someday, Amso Charter School. We are the first charter school they've worked with, and they're looking to break into the charter school field, and we're giving them that opportunity. They've been fantastic. But I felt that we really needed someone else to balance out the other two that also had the charter school experience. I didn't want so many companies not really deeply understanding the challenges that we have. And WT Rich brings that experience with charter school to the table. Take a look at their website and you're going to see all the different projects. And once again, as Nick said, it's repeat business as well. And I know some of the schools, I've actually been inside some of the schools that they have worked on. And I'm really excited about having this team all together It has the same kind of feeling to it as the administrative team that I get a chance to work with every day at AMSA. Just good people working hard for a common cause, and really are enjoying the work that we're doing together. So I'm super excited about this. Little bit of razzle dazzle time. I do want to just put it out there that our Facebook account is no longer working. It was shut down, it got hacked. And so unfortunately, Mike Finkel's not able to post on Facebook the way that we want to. So I don't have quite as much content as we normally do, especially the videos and things. But this is a wonderful photo of a couple of our AMSA teachers, that's Joe Bengiovanni there and Christy Jagowski, and one of our students. And we received a $10,000 science donation from Beckman Coulter. And this actually happened in kind of an interesting way. They reached out to Mark Vital, and Mark quickly put together the paperwork and the grant work on it. And within, I think, 24 to 48 hours, we found out that we had received this $10,000 for our research program and science program. And these folks went down for the presentation. So very proud of our science department, and really looking forward to making that investment in science as we move ahead over these next couple of years. One of the other things that we've relaunched since COVID, since we've returned from COVID, a few months ago, we started with our core values in action. And that's when folks experience or witness students or other students doing something that fits into our core values. And so I've put a link here if you're interested in taking a look at it. These are stories that Mike Finkel puts together. Folks, I think there was one recently that a student found $5 on the ground near the cafeteria, and they picked it up and they turned it in. So those types of things. And that was one of our younger students, right? That is part of integrity, and it's part of community, and it's part of excellent behavior as well. But really, highlighting those moments in time when kids make really great decisions and they're caught living our core values. So there's a link there. You can take a look at the page on the new website, and it will tell you all the recent stories that we have that we're highlighting, and encourage you to if you see students when you're on campus making good choices and doing good things, you can always just let us know. So we have some upcoming events. Obviously, February break, much anticipated, from February 21st to the 25th. I think everyone is really looking forward to this. I think people, as we've been saying, they're worn out, and everybody's looking forward to this little time to rejuvenate. And then I mentioned March 1st is our virtual lottery at 10 a.m. And then on March 3rd, we will be having a class of 2023 parent and student forum at 5:30 in the lower school cafeteria. And this forum is for students and parents to discuss the recent decision on the Disney senior trip. And so we're looking forward to working collaboratively with everyone to sort through that. Mike is also going to be working and Amanda working with the representatives from the class of 2023 from student government, and they have a meeting scheduled for March 1st. So we're excited about that. It's a great opportunity to work with kids and families. On March 29th, this is really important. We have the Department of Education every 5 years, that we have a charter renewal, but then mid-year through that 5-year cycle, they come for a mid-cycle visit. This is very important for a number of reasons. First of all, we want to make sure that we're ready for this meeting. They come and spend a day with us, but they also want us to put together a small group of board members to be interviewed. And basically, for those of you who haven't participated, there's maybe 5 or 6. It has to be, obviously less than a quorum. Together, and they just ask you questions about how things are going. And there are governance pieces to this particular visit that Sarah Snow is already working to pull together. So information that's due to them for March 1st, but then she'll also be reaching out to you to see who might be available on the 29th to spend about 45 minutes to an hour with those who will be visiting us. I'm keep adding on that we have a Board of Trustees strategic planning meeting still to be determined, but just so that that's still on everyone's mind. And then looking ahead, May 25th will be an art and science night. We also hope to be promoting the capital campaign at that evening as well. And then just to have it on your radar if you're interested in joining us for the class of 2022 graduation, which will be June 10th at Fort Kicks, hoping for good weather. And then also just to celebrate Black History Month, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Something that I truly believe in, a wonderful quote by Dr. Martin Luther King. Also I've added a link over into the side there. Take a look at that. We've had some folks at school put together some wonderful stories in history of different Black leaders that have made a change in our world and a change in our country. So if you're interested there, they've been coming out also every day this week through the announcements that Mike Finkel sends out. But this is also a link if you'd like to go ahead and take a look at that. So that is my presentation for this evening. And can I answer any questions that you may have? In case anyone has any questions about that.
No, just thank you, Miss Lindsay. A lot going on in the school, and it's good to see. You know, I know in the past we've asked like, oh, we want to make sure we stay on top of upcoming events and the Vassal Fest and all that, and you continue to do that every month for us. So I appreciate that.
Welcome.
I second Raul's sentiment. There's a ton going on, and it's really exciting to see those science labs. I never experienced anything like that, and that is super cool.
It is super, super cool. We're really, really excited. It's an improvement for, I don't want to say forever because it's not forever, but these are labs that will be in existence for our kids for the next 25, 50 years, right? Hopefully with updates and improvements, but this is something long overdue for AMSA, and I'm just so excited to be able to be a part of it.
I don't want to gloss over the fact that you guys are making space to have the conversations with parents, especially in the class of 2023. I think that's awesome. I'm sure that Bella probably as the parent rep has more to say about it, but I think it's appreciated and awesome. So thank you.
Sure. Did you get the invitation in email today?
I have not dug into my email yet, but
all
I'm sure.
right. I think it's in there.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Ellen? Thank you very much. On to continue with the executive.
I am so sorry. I'm sorry, Roger.
Oh.
I just, for the moment, I should have had one more slide in there to remind myself to introduce the famous Mr. Peter Prue, who is joining us this evening. Peter, we could not be more happy to welcome you here with us, and I'm really excited about the work that you've been doing. And I know that you've been partnering with Anders Lewis as well, and with Padmaja. And thank you. I introduce you to our.
It's
community.
fine. I thought I was off the hook. I thought I just could have gone upstairs and stuff for a quick second and everything. So
Absolutely not. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much, Ellen. And I just want to say I want to give a huge shout out and thanks to Dr. Lewis and Padmaja Pindaru, who helped me a lot with what you're about to see. So I'm really excited about the information that I'm going to be presenting to all of you tonight. We at AMSA, I think we're doing a really good job with our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We still have some work to do, but I think that where we stand right now, with our findings and the kind of the climate of what we've gained from student input, we are at a very good space. So I'm going to try. It's been a while since I've done the sharing of Zoom, which is a very good thing. But let's see if I did this correctly. Can you all see this screen? Oh, yes, I did it correctly. Yay. All right, good. Excellent. Okay. So here is our report on diversity, equity, inclusion. Now, I know Ellen gave a little bit of a spiel about who I was. She said I was famous. I don't think that's true, but thank you. But I have been at AMSA for 8 years. I recognize some of your faces and such, you know, from meeting you throughout the years and having some of your kids in my classroom. But I am in the history department, and currently I teach 6th grade, 9th grade, and AP European history. I'm not just a history teacher though. We do have a curling club. It's not running this year, unfortunately, because of COVID, but we are watching curling for the Olympics. If you haven't seen it yet, you should take a look. It's really fascinating stuff, but I'm also the National Honor Society, one of the coordinators with Holly Johnson. I've been a class coordinator before. So I really do love what AMSA has going and creating those relationships with the students. But my training and my expertise, I guess, with DEI, really, I have to give it to Providence College. I went there for my undergrad, graduated there in 2013 with my bachelor's in history and education. And then I stayed there for an additional 1.5 years, or about 13 months, to gain my master's in urban education. And that degree really allowed me to specialize in cultural competent teaching skills, project-based learning, and developing classroom environments that allow for voices to be heard. So with that program, I was able to have several practicums in both Providence and North Providence, Rhode Island. So I was able to gain a lot of insight on how to ensure that, you know, not just a single voice in the classroom is heard, and how do we respect the diverse student bodies that, you know, schools have and that AMSA has that's ever so growing. So I'm going to show you a couple slides. I've really condensed the information into 2 major slides. What are we doing well? And what are areas that we can improve upon? Now, the information that you're going to see, it's not every single question that has been presented to the student body. I am going to be sending a full report to the board once we have the information fully scrubbed of identifying names and such. So that will be sent to you. But the information I really wanted to show you were the key highlights that I thought, you know, really show what we are doing really well with. So some things to keep in mind. We had 881 students surveyed at AMSA, massive number. It wasn't just a single grade or anything. We did all grades 6 through 12. Again, I want to thank Ms. Bendaru for allowing the computer science classes to be the location that we were able to survey these students. So we were able to get a majority of our student body. But with that in mind, we also need to remember that about 264 of these students, the 6th and the 7th graders, had only been at AMSA for about 5 months. The 7th graders, that 5 months, the survey took place in early November. So for those 7th graders, they were only at on AMSA's campus for the end of, you know, that COVID year and then the beginning of this year. And then our 6th graders are completely new to the campus. So some of the data we may have to take with a grain of salt and kind of remember that we have 264 of these students that haven't had that, you know, full year at AMSA yet. So that will make sense to with a couple of these points. The intention of this survey was to gain the student feedback. You know, we hear a lot of anecdotal evidence, you know, here or there from just particular groups of students, but we wanted to make sure that we could get as many voices as possible. And then lastly is that I wanted to show you that we have observable trends. My goal is, you know, I want to make sure that we can handle every single issue that does come up at AMSA, but we also need to notice what are the things that we are really doing well with, but also the trends of things that we can improve upon. So this is really why the data that I'm going to show you are these observable trends that we've found with our data set. So let's start with the good news. All right. The good news is that we are creating a space that allows for students to be immersed in a diverse student population and allow for ideas to flourish. 97% of students at AMSA say that they have a friend that is of a different race, culture, or ethnicity. You know, students are going to be in their classrooms. They are coming together. They are creating those friendships. They are learning from each other about their cultures, about their diverse backgrounds and such. And also, we are seeing that 96%, I'm going to skip down, 96% of students have at least one peer or friend that they feel comfortable sharing their interests or even their concerns with. So this means that the students are forming those strong bonds, that they are able to share any sort of concern, any sort of displeasure that they may have, at AMSA. So it does say that we are doing a good job making sure that the friendships are maintained. 77% of our students believe that AMSA provides some sort of opportunity to discuss racial injustices, ethnic prejudices at AMSA. This is both in the classroom, but also having the ability to talk with school administrators and with teachers. And this, I think, leads us to a really great point, is that 91% of our students feel safe at AMSA. Now, I am going to go into that other 9% because some of us may be seeing, well, then what about that 9%, 10% that don't feel safe? That's what I'm going to go into, kind of the student comments on the next slide. So I will be getting to that 10% in just a moment. In our classrooms, we're doing a great job with our curriculum. We ask questions based on the humanities and the math and sciences. As expected, we are seeing that 84% of our students feel that, they are able to learn about topics related to race, culture, in their humanities classes. Again, let's keep in mind that, we did have those sixth graders that are coming in. They may not necessarily have had an opportunity within those first 3 months to get that in their English or their history courses. So these are things that we have to keep in mind when we see a number like 84%. That's really good, but we want to try and get it up higher for sure. We do have courses that are being offered in the humanities, such as like Contemporary Voices. We have History of Africa that's being offered next year. We have had courses such as The Dark Side of American History. So these are all things that AMSA in the humanities departments are really putting forth an effort to make sure that those courses are available to students. 92% of students feel that their peers treat them as a valued member. So we do create that safe space for students to feel comfortable with one another. And then 80%, and I thought this was a really good number, because keeping in mind, talking about race, ethnic, culture issues, everyone's at different spots, especially with our culture and climate right now. 80% of our students feel comfortable talking about these issues in classrooms. So I think this is attributing to the environment that our teachers are creating as well, being able to create those spaces where students are able to have those strong conversations related to race, ethnicity, and other cultures. Now, in our survey, we had over 2,000 different student comments, and going through that, it's taken a long time. And what I found, and as I said earlier, I was looking for trends. We do see that, and I wanted to point out that there are 2 student comments here. These comments are some of the best and well-articulated ideas that demonstrated those trends that was observable within the data set. So the first quote saying, the school needs to continue to promote and protect clubs such as Black Student Union, Asian Student Union, etc., in order to give students a safe space to go and talk about their experiences without trying to sweeten it for others. The school has provided a space, does allow these student groups to participate at student functions. Right now, we have Black History Month going on at AMSA. The Black Student Union has been able to put out information for our students. They've been able to have the song of the day, and they've been able to get that space needed in order to celebrate the group. And the administration has really, put forth an effort to make sure that that can happen. Another thing that we saw is that our students really do love the course offerings that they have that are diverse in nature. And one that I really thought was great, and this is a huge shout out to the English department, One thing that we are doing to support students of different backgrounds is reading books from different cultures in English classes. It is nice to know that we are showing representation from different cultures in our curriculum. Now, it's also important to know that it's great to some of the student data that we got was saying that the English department, also the history department, the humanities, has put forth an effort in order to include LGBTQ topics within their courses as well, allowing students of all different backgrounds, not just ethnic and cultural, but also sexual orientation and gender identification, to also be represented within their curriculums as well. So I think that's really something that AMSA should be taking pride in knowing that we are making forth the efforts to make sure that student voices are, and students in general, they're able to see themselves in the topics that they're learning in their classes. All right. So that's the good stuff. Right. And AMSA's doing a lot of it. And when you get the data, you'll also, the full report, you'll see that there are certain things that are kind of expected, that are that are great positives as well. But these were the ones that I thought that really showed how well AMSA is doing. But now the next stuff, the next slide, I don't want you to think of it as so much of like, what is AMSA failed at? It's much more of where can AMSA improve upon? These are topics that I think are great goals for us. And another thing that I want us to keep in mind here is that, when we talk about the inclusion part, in the equity part of DEI, is that it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in 1 year. Is that we need to go ahead and we need to try and create policies and to create that sustainability factor. So that way we can hope that these numbers go down and move towards these numbers that you're about to see going down. All right. So areas where we can improve for student life, as we saw, 80% of students want to go ahead and they are very comfortable talking about those topics in class, whereas 20% are not. This is something when I think about the data set is that where is this 20% coming from? Is it coming from the 6th grader? Is it coming from the 7th grader that may not necessarily feel comfortable yet or necessarily have the articulation skills ready to go ahead and have those conversations? So with that in mind, that 20%, I'd love to see that go down, but possibly with a resurveying of data or another survey to the students that we possibly could see this number go down. The next one, all right, approximately 10% of students do not feel completely safe at AMSA. Looking at the data set and looking at the comments, I did not see a single comment throughout my time looking at the data where a student felt that they were in any sort of physical danger. During this whole entire time of looking at the information, it's more about student-to-student conflict and language that is used. Derogatory language, racial slurs, the use of identifying language to be used as a pejorative. This is the type of comments that we got. And with that, this is one of the things that I'm actually going to be addressing. A lot of the students were concerned about these incidences not necessarily being handled or being handled correctly by those in the classroom. What you're going to see on the next slide is what are we going to be doing next. I don't want to give too much away, but we are going to be offering professional development on allowing teachers to kind of develop tools and skill sets to make them feel more comfortable about how do you address an instance of this happening in your classroom. So when we have this, this roughly 10% of students not feeling completely safe at AMSA, it's very closely connected to the next point of interest, next piece of information, which is around 11% of students feel that someone else has been treated different often in the classroom based on their race, ethnicity, culture, or background, cultural background. 46% of students said that this happens rarely. Now, keep in mind, when it came to the survey information that was laid out to students, we did not necessarily define rarely. This could have been a once instance throughout the entire year. It could have been once in a semester. So when we think about this number, that's 57% of students that say that they have witnessed a sort of occurrence where someone has been treated differently because of their race, ethnicity, or cultural background. This is something that I think really is it's something that I think that we as a community can build towards with wanting to create classrooms that really do generate this feeling of respect, and also having teachers have the tools necessary and the confidence needed in order to address topics related to this and to handle that if any of those instances come up. The next part is kind of like our connection with students and the teachers. 20% of our students don't feel comfortable talking about race with teachers. Again, this might be the 6th, 7th grade data set that's coming up. But at the same time, is it necessarily, and these are the questions that, you know, my team is going to be working on, is it because we have people that may just not be comfortable discussing these themselves? And how do we get to that point as teachers and as educators to that? Roughly 12% of students do not feel adults treat them as valued members in the classroom. Now, when it comes to this word value, and you're going to see this especially with the student comment here, is that we didn't give a direct definition of what do you think value is. Value could be something as, excuse me, value could be something as simple as the teacher doesn't call on me enough, or the teacher doesn't give me one-on-one time, or the teacher, or they feel that the teacher does not have the ability to stay after class when I have the ability to stay after class. So with this, we do need to keep in mind that value does have a little bit of, you know, it's a little bit subjective at this, but with that being said, we now have goals laid out before us. Like, how can we go ahead and create lessons, create environments within our classrooms that allow students within a 45-minute period to all feel, you know, some sort of value, whether it's connection to the content, the ability for a teacher to work with them, for students to feel a connection with another student. So those are all things that, you know, Dr. Lewis, myself, we've had many conversations on how we can do that for our students. And then finally, 24% of students do not feel AMSA provides students the opportunity to seek out solutions related to race, ethnicity, or cultural issues. This is something that I'll be doing with the internal review, seeing about what avenues does AMSA have that allows for students to have that feeling and that ability to seek out opportunities to find those potential, you know, problem solves. So what we have is clear data about what students feel at AMSA. And like I said, these, you know, data points were collected in November. We're hoping that with another survey that we can see some of this information and some of these data points go down, just because, you know, with the 6th and 7th graders not having that experience at AMSA as long as we have hoped, you know, that possibly they would have had a changed experience. So a couple of the comments we see on the right. Overall, I feel at AMSA, I feel safe at AMSA, but by the way things are going right now, where teachers nowadays make everything about politics, I don't feel safe at all. The education is great, but this community is too political. This one, this comment was one of the comments that was best articulated, showing kind of this feeling about a feeling being in the minority. There were several comments made by students about how they did not necessarily feel that they were able to speak their mind freely because they didn't match the ideas of the majority in the classroom, or they didn't necessarily meet the ideas that they feel that their teacher would accept based on the teacher's own personal preferences or personal biases and such. I think that this goes both ways, both liberal, conservative ideologies. We see that in order for our students to have the best experience possible and the most productive experience, we need to develop techniques that allow our teachers and our staff to create spaces where students are able to have conversations that are respectful, that you can have disagreements and you can have a respectful disagreement, but yet still have a productive conversation. So how do we go about doing that then? That's going to be one of the things that I'm going to be looking for when I look at the conference that I'll be attending in March, on how do you create that in a space in a classroom? Especially with today's political climate, we want to ensure that students and all voices can be heard, and that students do not necessarily feel that they cannot say what they truly feel because feel of retribution from students or from teachers. And as I mentioned before, this idea of value, there was one quote that really struck me and really made me quite sad, is that it had somewhat, I felt, of a pessimistic view, is that we are one of 20 to 30 kids. There's no way that every single one of us can be valued. I hope that teachers, and I know myself, is that I want to make sure that our students always feel valued in the classroom, whether it be that I have a simple conversation with them, get to know them, or that they feel connected to the content. So how do we go ahead and allow for students and allow for teachers to create those positive relationships and those positive classroom environments where a student, when they come in, even if they're not called on, they're still able to feel a connection to the class, to their peers, and be able to leave knowing that their voice, their opinions mattered. So those are kind of like the main data points. As I mentioned before, you're going to be getting all of them that were collected that I felt were the ones that I thought that you would be interested in most. What are the next steps? Well, as DEI coordinator, I'm going to be conducting an internal review of our school handbooks and policies. I'll be involving several school stakeholders, including administrators, staff, in order to ensure that, we're thinking about all lenses here. It's not just about race. It's not just about sex. It's about, all different things, gender identity, sexual orientation, all of those different things that allow us to really ensure that, we are not necessarily marginalizing anyone just because we didn't think about it. We're also going to be conducting professional development. Excuse me. Brianna Cashman has done a fantastic job of getting teacher feedback on potential opportunities for professional development opportunities. And I am going to be offering a professional development on March 16th that's called Language in Our Classrooms. The goal of this professional development is to allow teachers to develop protocols, techniques, and to gain a voice in their classroom to address issues regarding, bigoted language, racial language, students calling each other names. How do you create that respectful environment within the classroom and addressing student behaviors? Because if we look at the data, a lot of what the students were saying is that the reason why they don't feel safe is not because of adults, it's because of what they're saying to each other. So that's really where, the first development that I'm going to be offering to teachers. And lastly, a lot of the goals of outreach. I know that one of the things that I'm going to be doing is working with Mr. Finkel on a website or a page on our website is going to be predicated on our Connections conference that I'm going to be going to. On March 18th at Sutton High School, there's the Connections Conference that's been postponed because of COVID, but we're going to be having it in person now. And there, myself, along with some other stakeholders, will be going to this conference to create partnerships and relationships with DEI organizations and other schools that have similar positions such as mine, to really talk about what are you doing at your school that's going well, what are the problems that you're facing. So this is really allowing myself to have that ability to see what's going well at schools and possibly bringing that to AMSA. And from there, we're going to be working on creating a DEI vision statement on pretty much AMSA's commitment to develop and continue practices that allow our student body and our staff to feel safe and accepted and included in all facets at AMSA. So I know that's a lot of information in such a short amount of time, but I hope it was put into a way that it was easily, digestible and such. So If anyone has any questions, anything that they want a little bit of clarification on, I'm happy to take anything from you.
So Roger, this is a good time for comments, or is this the kind of thing we're gonna flag for the discussion?
So at this point, we would do questions, and then we would do the flagging of items for discussion at the end of after the faculty and parent report.
All right.
But this would be an opportunity for questions at this point.
So maybe I'm gonna phrase my comment as a question.
Sure thing.
No, because I do want to confirm. Well, first of all, thank you for putting all that together. It sounds, very insightful. We're not just surveying the kids and moving on. It's taking insight out of what we heard.
Mhm.
I guess to make sure I phrase this as a question, we can break it apart by grade, right? Or was it anonymous in the sense that we don't even know which grades are?
So we do know how many students were able to take it by grade. The ability based on our subscription to SurveyMonkey, it's going to be able to do that if we are able to get a higher subscription by breaking it down by that. So we do have the data on the amount of students that were able to take or what grade they were in, but breaking that down individually, like what was the data set from the 6th grade, we're unable to do that with the technology that we had offered to us at the time.
And that's okay. I mean, I was curious about trends.
Yes,
And also-
exactly. And that's something that, is for sure something that we thought about with the data set.
Because I'm also thinking of maturity levels that might have a different perspective on how you interpret some of these questions. And
Mhm.
anyway, that was part of it. But if I'm able to squeeze in a comment that's not a question, it's that I think one of the good things I like hearing about the next steps, and you use the word skill sets and tools as a training coming up. I know there was a strong reaction to the PD that we did last year, the year before, and whether or not, and I actually believe I agree with those that said that there was an unintended side effect, that the training actually created more division. And I think if we focus on tools and skills that everybody can use, if they choose to do that, then the worst division that can happen is that whoever doesn't like the tools, they won't use them. And then we'll deal with that. But I think that's better than focusing too much on the framework or the definition of the problem. It's more about having the tools. And to your point, I think we had the hypothesis when we heard the complaints from Black Adams and others that the issues were more within the students and less between Amso, like the adults and the students. And I think the results kind of confirm that. But obviously having the tools to address those issues is part of Amso's responsibility to make sure we're making a difference. So thank you. I think it's, for what it's worth, I think that's a good approach, focusing on the tools and the skill sets that are going to help the adults deal with that.
Thank you. It's bedtime, and this is like the first time that I'm not going to be there for bedtime. So good night, buddy.
Aw.
I love you. Have a good night.
Good night, Cole.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raul. Appreciate those words.
Other questions for Mr. Pro? Pro.
I'd just like to add a comment. Peter is he's a wonderful colleague. He's an amazing history teacher. I learn from him every day because I have the privilege of being in his class. And he is someone who's really, truly committed to making AMSA a welcoming environment for everybody. So thank you, Mr. Prue.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lewis, for the kind words. And thank you all for the support. And again, I want to thank the school's administration for supporting us in this venture. I think it's a very important one, and also supporting for future endeavors involved in this. So I want to thank the board for their time as well. I relinquish my time to the chair. Always wanted to say that. So there you go.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great. All right. Thank you for the great report and the next steps that you're planning to take. Next up, we have other questions for Ellen. I think we answered most of those before we transitioned to Peter.
I have one quick question. This is Kristen. I don't know if everyone can see me on Zoom. I still haven't figured out how to get Zoom everybody on one page. So I have like 3 screens, right? So Ellen, when you got the amazing amount of applications, do we already have the breakdown of the towns?
Well, those are just applications, and yes, I do. It's large, and so what Linda did was she took for each grade, and then she broke it down by the 4 core towns, and then by other for each grade. So I do have that. It was a lot of data, so I'm giving you a summary. That's actually information that you've never received before, because typically by the time we have this meeting, we already have pulled the lottery. And so I end up giving you the data, showing you who has been pulled off of the wait list. It's a timing thing, but that was the best I could give you.
Yeah, I was just curious. I know it was so great that Marlboro included you to come visit, and I was wondering if there was a proportionate number of applicants from the different schools. So I know we always get the breakdown on the admission side, but I was wondering about on the applicant side too.
That's an interesting question. That I don't have yet, but I'm sure there may be a way for Linda to sort that, but we didn't break it down that way. She just said in 6th grade, we had X number from Marlboro, X number from Hudson, X number from Clinton and Maynard. But we didn't break it down by elementary school of the 4 elementary schools in Marlboro. Yeah, I'm not sure if she can do that yet or not.
Yeah, I was just what you had just described. How many came from Marlboro? How many from Hudson, et cetera, et cetera. That was all I was curious about.
Just one other question too on that, Ellen.
That I have.
With regard to, I think it's great that you went out to the 5th graders in Marlboro. I know previously I attended an info session at the Maynard Public Library for Maynard kids, and I know COVID probably threw a wrench into that, but just moving forward, it would be great to include the other core towns and some of that informational outreach.
We did. We absolutely did. We did 4 different virtual information nights, and that was advertised out to everyone.
That's my oversight. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no oversight. No. This was, and actually our numbers are much higher with the virtual information night than it is when I used to go out to the libraries, and I know Mike used to go to the libraries as well. So that's why we did 4 of those. This was just a special invitation that we had received from Marlboro. And it was kind of last minute because the lottery closed on February 4th. We were invited the week before, and we were able to, through a team of 10 people, pull it together to go out and visit those schools. And then we also did an informational night for the parents of Marlboro, and we had translators in Portuguese and Spanish, and there was a group of us that did that as well. And we are more than happy next year to do that for other towns as well. But Marlboro specifically released their names and addresses of all of their 5th grade students to us.
That's awesome. Thanks.
It's awesome to see the cooperation between Marlboro Public and Amso. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks for doing all that. Other questions for Ellen? All right. On to the faculty rep report. Zach.
Can you hear me? Yes. All right. So a couple things. I'll start with some of the more basic ones and then move into the more contentious ones. Mask mandate. Broad support from teachers for the decision of AMS's administration for the mask mandate. Definitely seems like the best plan from everyone I've spoken to, everyone who's reached out to me. The week-by-week approach, mask choice, broad support every which way I've looked at it. More divisive Disney trip has been the canceling of the Disney trip. There have been strong feelings on both sides that I've been receiving formally and informally. Some people feel that the decision was made with not enough input from the teachers who have chaperoned this trip, that it could have been communicated better, both in before the decision was made. Some people feel that it kind of came out of nowhere, and that it could have been discussed more amongst the community before the decision came out. With that being said, there's also been very broad support for the decision of canceling the Disney trip. And the reasoning behind it being the inclusivity, the building of the community, the opening up of different opportunities that more students will be able to take part in. There's been a lot of, I don't want to say buy-in, agreement with that. And I think I've got a comment right here that I pulled out that I think sums up a lot of that really well. So I'll just read you this thing. I fully support our administration's decision regarding the Disney trip going forward starting in 2023, with community being one of our 3 core values. If the class trip is not accessible to approximately 60% of the senior class, emphasis theirs, we are not fostering a sense of community. We are not providing an inclusive opportunity for all of the students. AMSA is a free public school. Any student has access to apply to AMSA and has the chance to be selected to attend school here. All of our students are different. They come from different backgrounds, upbringings, home lives, and encounter different adversities. We need to do a better job allowing our students to feel included rather than feel that they don't belong here. I feel this decision is a step in the right direction to create necessary change in our school culture and community. I feel that really summed up the supportive messages that I've been getting for this decision. In terms of, on the other side, I didn't really have a single comment that I thought summed that up as well as this one did. That is the main thrust of what I've been receiving. Oh, Roger, you're muted.
Any questions for Zach? Thank you for your report. Parent rep, Bella, floor is yours.
Hello. You'll probably hear some of the similar themes that just Zach had mentioned, but I've been receiving some emails and some communication from various parents over the past few weeks, and I'm going to group them into 3 big buckets. So the first bucket is really complaints on certain rules that we have at AMSA. For example, our stringent uniform policies, social distancing rules. I actually did have a parent who wants to remove the mask mandate as of February 28th, citing things that, as we all read, they're not as effective unless you're wearing an N95 mask. COVID rates are coming down, and really concerned for the mental well-being of our children and being able to see everyone's faces, et cetera. Also, our drawstring bag requirement for middle schoolers was also another issue. The bags are small and you fill them with books, and the middle schoolers can't get to their lockers and it's hard on their backs. Is there any sort of solution we can have, or alternative solution to that? And then the final thing in this bucket is this National Honor Society requirements for attendance and community service. So I guess those are all in one category of just complaints on general rules. And then the second category is this feeling that maybe AMSA is losing sight of the charter and maybe not as much emphasis on the academics. I don't have a lot of detail on that particular category. I think it makes sense to delve deeper into that, because I think it's really important for all of us to understand that. So I don't have any more detail on that. And then the third thing, which we all know, there's a general unhappiness with the cancellation of the Florida trip for the class of 2023. From some parents just really unhappy that it got canceled, and really don't understand why, to didn't like the way it was communicated, or why wasn't the community involved or included in coming up with some alternative solutions. And I'm happy to report that the administration's acting fast, and we're already going to have a forum in March to talk about solutions. And I think that's great. So I guess that's it. Those are the three categories.
Questions for Bella? Thank you for summarizing the very wide-ranging set of opinions there over many topics. Great summary. Right. At this point, are there any items that were brought up that the board wishes to flag for discussion later in the meeting?
Yes, but I don't want to flag it for a lot of discussion. I just want to capture a lot of the things that Bella just mentioned that could be good topics to bring up when we talk about strategic planning.
Okay.
So maybe that's all we need to say. And then we'll capture that.
So the flag is to identify items to
So academic
discuss.
excellence, communications, and then inclusion, for lack of a better term, but it's just the fact that some decisions are made in the interest of making sure that every student can take advantage of things and participate. So
Okay, well, we'll come back. We'll come back to that. It sounds like we have you're saying that we have topics that we'd like to flag for consideration for our strategic planning meeting. Is that a fair summary?
yes.
Okay. Very good. Other items for flag and discuss? Hearing none. On to chair business. So first I'd like to, it's now coming in, or winter into springtime. The school year is more than half over. We've had our second quarter grades, and we need to start thinking about board and committee recruiting. I'll encourage everybody to put on their thinking hats and think about people they think would be good board or committee members. And then we need to start thinking about that for our process going forward. And I think I would Sheila, I'd like to reach out to you and start talking about how we would manage this within governance for recruiting and screening for new board members.
Sure.
All right, thank you. Second, I will be reaching out to the members of our board strategic planning task force and schedule a meeting. It'll be after February break, hopefully targeting the week after, but look for an email from me and we'll try to schedule something up. Questions for the chair? Hearing none. Committee reports, starting with development committee.
Relatively quick one. We met here in between the last board meetings. Ellen provided update on the capital campaign. We went through a few different statuses. Things at that point seemed to be on track. So we just went through some suggestions and advisory that we thought would be helpful. There's an engagement with the Soaring Eagles to get their page up and running, to connect the dots, exchanges of ideas around that, to make sure that the status and the identities there to help with the program. And yeah, I think that was about it. There wasn't anything other major in our committee meeting that is probably to report here today.
Thanks, Ben. Any questions for Ben? Next up, Education Committee, and you get a gold star for submitting your committee report. Liz.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so you can obviously read it in the template that I sent along, but I think the two things at this last meeting in February that we discussed, one was the report card, and initially we were under the impression that the report card would not be coming out, but I guess it did. So we did have a chance to go through it. We have some questions. I think one of the key takeaways, and Dawn, thank you for joining the meeting. And providing this feedback after the fact, because I do think one of the ideas, and I don't know if this is something that is even possible, Sarah, would have to go back to Dees and ask, but if there was any way to look at the data in the report card and not compare it overall to Massachusetts, but to compare it to the core towns that we pull from, I think that would probably be more meaningful. Again, I don't know if it's a possibility, if that sort of data manipulation is even available, but I think that was a very interesting thought and approach that we could possibly take in the future. So one of the things that we looked at in terms of comparing sort of the overall Massachusetts numbers is typically they're not really looking for the high performers as such, which is a category that Amso falls into, but they're more interested in looking at sort of the schools on the other end of the spectrum who fall more into the failing category. So that was just something that the Ed Committee had observed. And so I think that, if there was in the future any chance to look at that data and compare it to the core towns versus the entire state of Massachusetts, it would be probably more meaningful.
It is available.
It is? Oh, great. All right. So I'll follow up with you, Sarah, to see how we can get those cuts of data.
Well, each school district has its own report card. So I think if you take a look at the link where our report card is, you should be able to just drop down menu, Marlboro drop down.
Right.
Menu.
I was thinking that, but if I did that, I would have to pull all the data together. I was looking for, is there a way to aggregate the data so that I'm not doing it all manually? So that would be.
I can do it through the chart.
Okay. Okay. So I'll talk to you about that, Sarah, offline. So we just think that might be more meaningful. The other thing, just as an update, are the senior exit survey is still underway. It actually is being worked on by Mr. Naraki's principal counsel, and the student representative from the Ed Committee, Bridget Beschlein, is still working with that group, and we should have the results of that survey for the June meeting. So we will plan to present it at that time. Any questions for Ed Committee? That's it.
All right. Thank you, Liz. Look forward to the survey results. The exit survey would be great. Governance. Sheila?
So we did meet. We will have some language, like Roger said, free next month on modification that we are proposing to the executive minutes portion of our minutes policy, just to be sure that we're clear on how we are, excuse me, keeping, maintaining and disclosing those minutes. So that's to come. That was kind of the big takeaway from our meeting. Any questions for governance? Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Finance Committee. Kristen, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. I can find the right one as always. Two items tonight. We have the January financial statements, and thank you, Roger. And we have the detail on the grants and whatnot. So really great schedule that Lana put together for everyone to see how much work the school does to increase our revenue. So for January and year to date, so again, we're highlighting key areas to discuss this month rather than go through every line, as so we can look at the primary financials. January was a good month. First line, tuition, always the largest revenue number for the school. That is favorable in January versus budget by $72,000 and equally year-to-date by $247,000. We actually mentioned this last time. The Department of Education rates came out last month, and there is a 4% increase in tuition versus what we had budgeted. So that gets trued up from now to the end of the year every month when the funds come in. And that quarterly true up happens quarterly, for those of you who think that's funny. So that's good news for the school, right? So we have additional funds to work with. And again, we are expecting that that will continue to hold and not certainly dip below the budget no matter what. Grants and donations pretty much on, so not much to talk about there. A couple of items in the budget are highly timing sensitive, right? So annual giving, student programs, athletic programs, all of those items are subject to timing. And for the student programs, the most sensitive, of course, as it relates to COVID activities, and the timing this time around with the AP testing was significant in January. And again, for the full year, almost $60,000 under budget on that, but primarily due to lack of field trips and participation is lower. For, if we scroll down, so total income, 1.4 million in January versus a budget of just shy of 1.4, so about 3% greater. And year to date, we're about 2% greater. So net of all the factors, we're ahead of budget on the income line. In the expense line, we have some favorability in professional development, again, highly sensitive to timing, and instructional supplies also on a year-to-date basis. We are, sorry, I'm getting a little hesitancy here, $30,000 lower than expected on spending for supplies and equipment. And a lot of that, again, might straighten itself out as we progress through the year. Student program expenses also down versus budget, equally in line with the revenue being down, less spend and less revenue for those programs. Lease cam and taxes are favorable for the month and the year by $123,000 for the year. We had a real estate tax reduction, which was good news for the school, and we had some reclassification of mortgage interest that we had originally had in the budget. So a little bit of an accounting item there and timing. And our next line to discuss is our IT expenses. Those are down by about $39,000 on a year-to-date basis. We'll watch again for timing on those and see when the programs come through that need to be funded. And other operating costs, pretty large number. We're down $211,000. That was primarily an accounting adjustment related to the purchase fees for the financing of the building purchase. So the budget had recorded those on the capital side, and they did fall into the expense side as a result of accounting classification. So nothing to be concerned about that increase. It's just a matter of accounting. For total expenses in January, $100,000 lower than budget, and on a year-to-date basis, about $100,000 lower than budget, so both favorable. Greater revenue, lower expenses means that our surplus for the month is favorable by $133,000, and year-to-date $340,000. So again, successful financials for the month. So I'm going to jump over to the grants schedule. Hopefully you can all see that pretty quickly because I'm still sharing. I've color coded the categories and wanted to kind of talk about those in total. So over $1 million this year available for grant money that the school has identified and won, and this is great. The yellow items totaling $230,000 are annual entitlement grants that we do receive each year. So very strong monies there. There were 2 grants related to the American Relief Act, aka COVID, totaling $263,000. There are a number of items that were applied for summer school programs, some state funded, some federally, $173,000. 2 special ed grants. There was a summer school sped program too, but I lumped that in summer school. But the sped programs are another $50,000. some guidance grants that are some of these are multi-year as well. So there was guidance grants totaling $175,000 and 2 others. Acceleration Academy, again, which is an extra help type of program for $70,000, and some English books grant that we're going to use for another almost $50,000. So really amazing work done by the school to boost their income levels for these various programs. We also talked a little bit about how much we could include annually, but generally speaking, these programs will be available for a couple of years going forward. So, and they continue to search them out and get more. And of course, this doesn't include the $10,000 donation that Ellen mentioned in her program, which is also amazing for the science programs there. So lots of good money coming into the school based on their performance and excellence. Well done. Any questions on the financials or the grant summary? No? One? All righty.
All right. Thank you, Kristen. So in our next section of the meeting, we are discussing items flagged from our meeting. And the one item that we had was to discuss the role. I don't know if you'd like to reintroduce what you'd like to discuss there. It sounded like there was topics for our candidate topics for our strategic planning meeting.
Yeah, and we don't need to discuss much. I think what I just want to make sure we capture is that Bella had a list of things that came up from comments from parents that some of them are recurring things that we have discussed in the past. And I think it's hard to be actionable if you just think about the category. But maybe what we can discuss is how do we get specifics on those topics so we can get to an actionable point, right? So I think the way, and please correct me if I'm misinterpreting the way you said it, Bella, but you said there were complaints about academic excellence, but we don't know specifically what that means. So is it our grades are going down? Is it, we're not covering the material that we should cover? Whatever the specifics. I don't know. I don't want to get into that discussion today, but what I do want to make sure is that we have a discussion on how to, first of all, understand the current state. Like, what is it that we think is an issue? And then what are we going to do about it? It's part of our strategic planning. So that's all.
Yeah, I agree. I think obviously these statements are being said, but we don't know the details. And I really think that we need to have that information so that there's something actionable can happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think to the upcoming, not only the general next kind of parent forum, but specifically with the individual class, the junior class forum, I think is going to give us a lot more, hopefully, details and information. It is really hard, Bella, to be in your shoes and kind of receive like partial stories or, various information. You're trying to kind of sum it all up. And it may appear that we're not kind of handling it in the moment, but it is really tough without details and things like that to be able to adequately express it. And I think, Raul, it was a great idea to bring it up as part of our overall strategic plan, because they are recurring themes, right? And they shift and they change a little bit over time. But I think that's a good environment for us to really dig deep on them.
I just have a follow-up comment, and it's sort of to Bella and Maura. One of the things I like to know when we get feedback is sort of, to dimensionalize it, right? And it's probably not as easy as a spreadsheet, but let's say it was easy as how many string bag complaints we get in a school year, and it's 3. And I'm just trying to, I'm not trying to poo-poo the idea, please, but I never know. I think it's a struggle to know when something is a thing and when something is just being vented. So I'm not trying to single anything out. I'm not trying to say the concerns aren't real.
Right.
I think we already have a great idea of what is a real concern this year on a number of topics. So I guess when we do discuss these things, I'd love to just have a better idea from both of you, because you've had the role combined now. I think I'm making my point without, I'll probably just keep going on in circles. So sorry.
Yeah, it's almost like we need to understand the magnitude of the issue being raised. And is it, is it a single person problem, or is it, are we seeing, 80% of the parents complaining about an issue? And I think the other thing, just going back to that one idea around the string bags, is is there also a common understanding as to why the string bags are used? I know that it's always been something that has been, a problem with the lower schools. So the question is, do they understand why string bags are needed versus the big backpacks? That's just, my overall thought there.
Yeah. I mean, the string bag is, I think we've all heard it and we've all experienced it and we've all complained about it. So I definitely think like that's probably a good majority of the middle school parents, but a lot of us do understand why we have them. Yeah, so definitely. But in terms of how many parents do these views reflect? Sometimes parents are speaking on behalf of other parents. So it's really hard to know the numbers. I don't think it's the masses, but it might be a small number and it could grow. So I guess that's something that you want to, at least address or acknowledge.
Yeah, and it also is I think one of the particular challenges in the parent role is just not everybody wants to speak out too. So because one person is complaining could either mean I'm the only one affected by this, or I'm the one who has spoken out, and I actually know 20 other people that didn't feel empowered to speak out but have the same issue. And it's a really hard role as a parent rep to quantize that and figure out which it is. And I think it is a challenge.
Roger, I have a question. I'm not on the survey task force anymore. So are we doing a parent survey this spring? That might be a way to get some of this data.
Yes, ma'am. And we actually had our first meeting, our kickoff meeting for the survey this week. And just, not a lot of details at this point. We have enough time. We decided on the timing, which is going to be after the April break, correct, Ellen? And the one thing we can promise, or our intention, is to make both the family and the staff surveys shorter, which hopefully will result in more participation and better response rate. But yes, these kinds of issues, hopefully we can ask them in a way that's more general, because yes, everybody can go on and give their specific feedback in the kind of the free comment section, but we want to see trends. And I'm not saying trends year to year, I'm saying trends in the survey of the people that respond, give us an idea of the big important issues. And by the way, since I got off mute, I keep thinking number of complaints maybe is not, yes, we want to see some, if an issue is important enough that a lot of people are bringing it up, that means the issue is important. But the opposite isn't necessarily true. There might be important issues that people are not speaking up for. So we just need to be careful about how we measure magnitude, or how we try to get a sense of magnitude. It's hard to quantify that and be very objective about it, because some things might be a big deal and they're just there. So there's not an easy solution, I think. But yes, we're running the survey. It'll be a shorter survey. If anybody has any ideas, you're welcome to send them to me or to Ellen, or however you want to do it. But you're welcome to join the survey task force if you miss it, Joe.
I think it also would be good, if I could, for a quick second, just to remind parents and people who are watching, like, there's always opportunity, right? There's public comment at the beginning. We open it up. I mean, it's not a requirement of open meeting law, but we do it so that we can have people participate and share comments at the beginning of the meeting. It is really, I mean, I'm on social media daily for my work. And it's not always a fun place to be, admittedly, but it's different than bringing that conversation into an open meeting law meeting here, like our board meetings, right? And so it's really hard to translate what it is. So I think I just want to remind everybody that there are communications protocols of how to deal and kind of communicate with the staff and then administration and proper channels. You always have Bella. You have any one of us that are on the board to reach out to us as well. And I would encourage that. And we do our very best to bring it up into a forum that is balanced and open, et cetera, et cetera. And so just throwing that out there as a friendly reminder.
Yes, we have many avenues for raising issues, and you can go to the website and see them. But Ellen's door is always open. There's email addresses. There's Bella. There's your teachers. There's the department head. There's a dean of students. There are many different avenues to help resolve issues. So please make use of the ones that are best suited for the problem.
And just remember, Ellen has an awful lot on her plate as well.
Yes, I think one of the things that just in general, I encourage people to do is try to find the closest layer that you can get to resolve the problem. Not everything is an Ellen issue. Not everything is a board issue at first. You should try to work your way up the chain, reaching to the level that you feel is comfortable, would be my personal advice. All right.
If I could
Other,
just add, Roger, just reminding folks about the communication protocol, right? If there's an issue with academics or a teacher, you communicate with the teacher and email them first. If you're having difficulty there, you include the department chair. All those are communications. All the email addresses are on the website. Then from there, it can move up through, Mike and Amanda, vice principal. There's lots of layers. So thank you for mentioning that, Roger.
most welcome. All right. So I'd like to go into the meeting wrap up. Summary of action items. Sarah, do you have your list of action items from the meeting?
The only thing, I don't know if you're going to consider them action items. One is connecting with Sheila and about governance and recruiting, and the other is Liz and I getting together about the chart tool.
That's the I hadn't even captured the first one, but I did get the second one. That's the only action items I had recorded. Did we miss anything? Other board members? So that is our summary of action items. So I collecting items for the March meeting. So from the calendar, just reading off the agenda, we have the bot strategic planning for bot strategic planning. Governance theme is to revise and approve bylaws and policy changes as needed. And from the calendar, we have the student attrition and wait list report. And also I think I'd appreciate a final results from the lottery as well. Are there other non-standard items for March?
Roger, I had a question about the review of policies and bylaws. It seems like because it's on the strategic or the topic calendar every year, is governance expected to review policies and bylaws every year? I know we did an overhaul in 2020. 2021 might have been a missed year, but I mean,
I think it's there as a placeholder, as a yearly prompt for governance to take a look, particularly the policies. I think unless something has come up,
right? So it's
it's a yearly prompt for us to check and stay current. It's not a we must change something because it's March.
Exactly.
If that helps.
I just wanted that because we're going to talk about it in March. So I wanted to mention it in the full board meeting. Thank you.
All right. So we have no other special candidate agenda items. I'd like to pass the baton to Raul. I'm sorry, it might be a slight surprise for you, but for you to lead the meeting effectiveness portion of the meeting. See.
So, well, it is a surprise to me. I don't have any comments myself. I do think, but maybe this will sound repetitive from last month, but I'm actually going to give kudos to the Ed Committee for submitting the report ahead of time, which you already called out, Roger. You beat governance. We need to do something about that governance, Sheila, to make sure we
I
get
am
it.
shamed.
No, not you personally.
I
but-
wouldn't worry about it. I got it in by the skin of my teeth.
Yes, no, but I did see that in the packet. I don't know. I think I can't think of anything else. We laid out a plan for how we want to keep our meetings on time. I think we accomplished that today. There were some important topics to discuss and get deeper on today, and I appreciate. I personally like the presentation about DEI. I don't know. Anybody else have any other comments about the meeting itself?
I'd like to compliment Bella. It was actually not part of the meeting, but in preparation for the meeting, Bella worked to send out a summary of the meeting agenda to all the parents. And I think it's a practice we should continue to use going forward.
I can't take credit for that. I don't think I did that.
Well, all right. Okay.
I think it was Mr. Finkel.
I think it was Mr. Finkel.
And Mr. Finkel does so many great things. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure it was him.
Okay.
Or virtue in action. Let's add it to the notes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Mr. Finkel, please keep doing that going forward. Anything else for meeting effectiveness? Timekeeper report. I'll throw that in there. Zach.
Currently running 50 minutes ahead of schedule.
How many?
50.
50. All right, seeing nothing else, I would, at this point, we'd like to go into executive session after a 10-minute break. So we'll start at 8:03, looking for a motion to go into executive session and to conduct the strategy session in preparation for negotiations and with non-union personnel for our executive director. And I'd like to, besides the board members, I'd like to invite Ellen to the beginning of that meeting. And Zach, this would be a conflict of interest for you, so you would not be part of the executive session. So I'm looking for a motion.
So moved. Sorry.
I would say Maura and Liz.
Wasn't me this time.
Oh, sorry, I didn't.
I
who was
just
the
came
sec-
off mute. But I will second it. I will second it if it's needed.
So Mara and Liz.
Yes.
All right. Any questions or discussion? All right. Sarah, please call the roll.
Bella Gorman,
Yes.
Ben Hamel,
Yes.
Don Capello,
Yes.
Jill Schaefer,
Yes.
Kristen Carney,
Yes.
Liz Saul,
Yes.
Mara Webster,
Yes.
Nick Poirier. Nick,
Sorry, yes, I was talking to myself.
Raul Porras,
Yes.
Roger Jarrett,
Yes.
Sheila Kelly,
Yes.
Salmini Sampath,
Yes.
and Zachary Oglesby. That's everybody.
Yes.
All right. Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned, and see the